I'm the developer of Linguistic Genomics, which was the first platform on which you could determine the intent of communication rather than the literal artifact of communication. But we've also used that technology for a number of other applications.
Here's my recorder. Sure it's recording. It's recording. Make sure.
In defense and intelligence and finance, and most notably in the early 2000s, my company was responsible for bringing down what was at the time one of the largest tax frauds in U.S. history. We maintained a series of inquiries into every individual, every organization, and every company that is involved in anything that either blurs the line of biological and chemical weapons or crosses that line in any of 168 countries. In 1999, there were 1 million patents digitized by IBM. And those 1 million patents were the first time human innovation had been put into an electronic digital searchable format. We took that information and we did a very simple exercise using our linguistic genomics technology, where I made the horrific assessment that approximately 1/3 of all patents filed in the United States were functional forgeries, meaning that while they had linguistic variations, they actually covered the same subject matter. In 1999, patents on coronavirus started showing up, and thus began the rabbit trail.
March 2003. Panic grips Hong Kong as a deadly new virus sweeps through the city.
In 2003, the Center for Disease Control saw the possibility of a gold strike, and that was the coronavirus outbreak that happened in Asia. They saw that a virus they knew could be easily manipulated was something that was very valuable, and in 2003, they sought to patent it. And they made sure that they controlled the proprietary rights to the disease, to the virus, and to its detection, and all of the measurement of it. We know that Anthony Fauci, that Ralph Baric, that the Center for Disease Control, and the laundry list of people who wanted to take credit for inventing coronavirus were at the hub of this story. From 2003 to 2018, they controlled 100% of the cash flow that built the empire around the industrial complex of coronavirus.
The World Health Organization has officially named the novel coronavirus sweeping the country.
Outbreak.
The World Health Organization
is a pandemic,
an
international public health emergency.
Well, we know that the coronavirus manipulation started with Dr. Ralph Baric in 1999.
The major characteristics of SARS, MERS, and SARS coronavirus 2. It's a good way for you.
Ralph Baric is the researcher at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who's famous for his chimeric coronavirus research. In 2002, there was a recognition that the coronavirus was seen as an exploitable mechanism for both good and ill. On April the 25th, 2003, the U.S. Center for Disease Control filed a patent on the coronavirus transmitted to humans. Under 35 U.S. Code Section 101, nature is prohibited from being patented. Either SARS coronavirus was manufactured, therefore making a patent on it legal, or it was natural, therefore making a patent on it illegal. If it was manufactured, it was a violation of biological and chemical weapons, treaties, and laws. If it was natural, filing a patent on it was illegal. Then either outcome, both are illegal. In the spring of 2007, the CDC filed a petition with the Patent Office to keep their application confidential and private. They actually filed patents on not only the virus, but they also filed patents on its detection and a kit to measure it. Because of that CDC patent, they had the ability to control who was authorized and who was not authorized to make independent inquiries into coronavirus. You cannot look at the virus, you cannot measure it, you cannot develop a test kit for it. and by ultimately receiving the patents that constrained anyone from using it. They had the means, they had the motive, and most of all, they had the monetary gain from turning coronavirus from a pathogen to profit.
Developing and owning a coronavirus vaccine has become a biotech arms race with political overtones.
This vaccine gold rush is starting to bother me. Gold rush. Let's keep that in mind.
And so somewhere between 2012 and 2013, something happened. The federal funding for research that was feeding into places like Harvard, Emory, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, that funding suddenly became impaired by something that happened at the NIH, where the NIH got this little tiny moment of clarity and said, I think something we're doing is wrong. And in 2013, the NIH said, gain-of-function research on coronavirus should be suspended. The National Institutes of Health had a moral and social and potentially legal reason to object to research. But the letters that were sent to the researchers essentially said, you are receiving notice that we're telling you to stop. And now on the bottom of the page, we're going to clarify what stop means. Keep going. But when the heat gets hot in 2014 and 15, what do? You offshore the research. You fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology to do the stuff that sounds like it's getting a little edgy with respect to its morality and legality. But do you do it straight way? No. You run the money through a series of cover organizations to make it look like you're funding a U.S. operation, which then subcontracts with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The U.S. could say China did it. China could say the U.S. did it. And the cool thing is both of them are almost telling the truth.
Here on the High Wire, we have been dancing around this. We've listened to both sides. I've been free to talk to scientists that say they believe it's natural, but every time we talk to a scientist that says it's man-made, we lose a YouTube channel or we lose a Facebook channel, and frankly, I don't care anymore because most of those channels are all gone. From here on out, the High Wire is changing course. We are no longer going to vacillate between whether or not this is natural or man-made. My assumption now, in the work that we've done, in the science that we've seen and shown you throughout this year, and much of the science I cannot show you that is being privately handed to us anonymously from world-renowned scientists, I am now under the belief that this is a man-made virus. Now, sure, we could be wrong, and that's how science works. But I'm tired of wasting any more energy because I think we have more important things to focus on. And now we've got to start talking about a world where a man-made virus is being circulated. And to help me understand that and help get into the details of this in this beginning new journey into where is this going to take us, I had an opportunity to be in an interview with a really great doctor that laid out so much of the science that I've been looking at and looking for someone that could help me explain it. This interview took place last week, and I said, Dr. Fleming, would you join me on the High Wire? And so it is my honor and pleasure to invite Dr. Fleming onto the High Wire right now. Dr. Fleming, thank you for taking the time. Obviously, we're changing our structure of the show just because I know you're squeezing this time in. But to begin with, just give me a sense of your background and sort of what gets you into this conversation.
Well, I'm originally a physicist, nuclear cardiologist who ended up getting a law degree somewhere along the way. And I joined American Heart really at an early age in the mid-70s and was on several committees that included heart disease and what caused it. And by 1994, I had revised the theory of what causes heart disease because it's an inflammatory process and included things like bacteria and viruses that help explain why people end up with heart disease and cancer and diabetes and a variety of other problems. And then I spent approximately 2 decades developing a method to measure changes in tissue without going inside the body and being able to determine if something is causing this inflammation and blood clotting, and to see if things are treating effectively. And then, of course, like the rest of you, in 2019, my life changed. I thought I was going down one research pathway, and this changed it. So the SARS-CoV-2 actually confirmed the original theory that I presented in '94. Along with the work since then, and then the patent made it possible to actually turn around and measure treatments that we did outside of the United States to really look at this virus and distinguish the virus SARS-CoV-2 from the inflammation and blood clotting or inflammatory thrombotic disease called COVID-19. And that's how I ended up here. The more I looked into what was going on with this virus and investigated the research, the more I uncovered the origins of this virus. And like you and so many other people, I think probably even Dr. Rand Paul, have unfortunately come to the conclusion that the evidence all shows that this is a man-made virus. And for Dr. Fauci to sit at a hearing with Rand Paul and perjure himself is unconscionable, because I've shared with you even the patent, the international patent that Ralph Barrett got for gain of function research on the spike protein that's paid for, that's it, by NIH. And so despite the fact that we have all this research and all the papers where Barrick and Shang Li and Peter Daszak admit to working together, and they got money from the Department of Defense and from National Institutes of Health, the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and multiple government agencies, and the DOD even provided Peter Franz as an advisor for Daszak at EcoHealth to help them figure out what to do with this virus. Despite all of that evidence, there's nothing better than just simply looking at the patent that says we are modifying a spike protein, and the NIH is getting funds from it because that research helped pay for it.
It's amazing. Let's go we have a couple videos, but let me just jump into some of the articles that this paper trail that Fauci seems to be saying doesn't exist. Let's just look at a couple of these articles. All right, here is the NIH National Library of Medicine, angiotensin converting enzyme 2, ACE2 proteins of different bat species confer variable susceptibility to SARS-CoV entry. There's that Zheng Li, as we're talking about. All right, lab-made coronavirus triggers debate. The creation of a chimeric SARS-like virus has scientists discussing the risks of gain-of-function research. Barrick to lead 10 million NIH grant. Epidemiology News Recognitions Awards Research News. And then a SARS-like cluster of circulating bat coronaviruses in Nature shows potential for human emergence. Again, Zheng Li and Ralph S. Barrick. So, you know, China and America coming together. Research in this manuscript was supported by grants. Look at this. Grants from who? The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. We're not